Thank you, Emily, for doing this. You've already been on my channel and people love you. I know that. So we're going to do this again, and we're going to talk about a little bit of like tips and tricks and like a philosophy of F1 visa. What does visa officers kind of look into applications and what they think about students? So again, I just want to extend my gratitude and thank you for your time and sharing your knowledge with me and my audience. They're gonna love it.
Sure.
When the student comes in, and what's like the philosophy of visa officers? What do they look overall for F1 visa?
Yeah, so they're thinking of three eligibility criteria, and the first one is the student prepared for the program that they're intending to pursue? Do they have a credible financial plan, whatever that may be? It can be loans, scholarships, savings, funding from others. They'll need to be able to explain that to the officer. And then the last criterion is is the applicant a bona fide student? Does the applicant appear to be someone who will follow all the regulations when it comes to student status? Are they going to the U.S. to study on this visa?
Right. The very first kind of questions I get a lot is documents. Like what kind of documents do we need? And then students spend so much time gathering that documents and spending a lot of money and time. What is your take, and like what kind of documents they do need for visa interview?
Yeah, so that's a great question. That is a very common question. We get that a lot too. And the short answer is no documents, right? So you do need your passport, you do need your Form I-20. Yeah. You might want to bring along your SEVIS fee receipt, and then you'll need like the confirmation pages from your DS-160 and your visa appointment. But generally speaking, the U.S. Visa application process is interview-based, not document-based. So we want to have the conversation with the applicant. There's not really time to sift through documents, right? We want to have that exchange with the applicant.
Yeah.
And hear their story and hear, what their plans are.
Right. And just going into the detail of a little bit of documents, what if a student says that I did this thing, or my father has a land of this, whatever, if he's trying to express the financial aspect or an academic aspect. And does visa officer ask a document to prove that, can you show me that document, or can you show me the land, property, or whatever? And what if they don't have it at that time?
Yeah, so if an officer does require a certain document in order to reach a decision on the case, they can actually use a section of U.S. immigration law called 221G. Right. And so they can ask the applicant to submit that document at a later time.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not like a rejection. They just have to give that document and they verify it, and maybe based on the review of it, the decision might be made on that.
Yeah, so legally speaking, 221G is technically a rejection. Okay. But it's an opportunity for the applicant to submit additional information, and after that information is received, then the officer would reconsider the case, reevaluate the case.
Got it. Okay.
And reach a decision.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. My audience, whenever they ask me questions, they are like super nervous when they go to interviews. And you probably have seen all the students who are nervous, and especially if it is Mumbai, they're sweating and all that, so they're more nervous how they look and all that. Oh, no. Yeah, so I want you to explain like how is in general visa officers?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. We're humans. We're students once as well. Right. We understand the process. But we are there just to look at those criteria, make sure that you meet the criteria and that you're eligible for the visa. But don't be nervous. Take some deep breaths. Right. Have a conversation with the officer. Right. Just think I'm going to go and have a conversation with the officer about this program that I'm really excited about. Right? So just get
show
excited
that.
about it.
Yeah. A lot of students say that, oh, I've greeted the visa officer, but the visa officers didn't respond. Like, they was a little stricter, or that person was like they didn't like me when they saw me. They are like, because they are trying to assess the situation as they are talking to it. Like, are they liking me? Are they not liking me? Right? There's like a lot of decisions are getting made while they're talking. How should they react to those things?
Yeah, I mean, don't get into your head too much, right? When you're just having the conversation. The interview, it's pretty quick, right? So some officers might it might be a pretty straightforward conversation.
Yeah.
So I think just keep that in mind, right? There's you have a limited amount of time for the interview.
Yeah.
But don't have anxious thoughts during your interview. I would say to your viewers, right? Just think about, just keep it focused on your answers and how you're demonstrating to the officer that you're a credible student.
Yeah, a lot of common questions which each students probably get asked is, one of them is, first they start with like, how many admits do you have, or how many rejects do you have, and why did you select this university? I mean, I know that there's no like script, and that's what I want my audience to understand, that there's no right answer. It's what is your answer, and I want you to kind of address this to my audience, like how should they kind of approach this question when it comes to why did you select this university?
Yeah. Yes, I think you said it, right? The right answer is the honest answer. So whatever it may be, it might be, we were talking a little bit earlier, or sorry, our last episode we were talking about, it might be climate, it might be the location, it might be specific coursework, it might be that this program has certain elements that really were attractive to the student for whatever reason. So, or it might be any combination of that, right? It may be like a little bit of each. So as long as the applicant can tell the officer about that, and then they should be
right.
That's fine.
So there's no like checklist, like, okay, he said these things, I'm approving it.
No, right? We're not saying like, oh, the applicant must name a specific professor. We're not saying that, right? We're not. There's no checklist like that. The only checklist is those 3 criteria, right? Are they prepared for the program? Do they have the credible financial plan? And are they a student, a bona fide student, someone who's going to go to the U.S. and use the visa appropriately?
Got it. Yeah, and I also feel like a lot of time where they are asked like, why did you select this course? Because, for example, like a lot of students in India, they might choose a bachelor's, which they might realize that, oh, I don't really like it, and now I want to move into different master's course. Maybe they want to go from here to like from IT to mechanical, or mechanical to this, whatever that is. They did get an admit from university, which means the university thinks that he's a good student to give an admit.
Right.
How should they kind of address that question, that why are they changing or switching their masters, or why are they switching their careers?
Just explain the
transition,
path, right? So talk about what you studied for your bachelor's, and then maybe what point you reached where you suddenly thought, oh, I'm actually more interested in this, other direction.
Right.
So just explain that, and how that came to be.
Right. And if they are completely honest, for example, I'm just going to go in a specific example, that they did mechanical, but when they got a campus placement, they got into a company where they started becoming a software developer, and they really loved programming, and now they want to pursue more into computer science and understand that industry, but has no relation with their mechanical bachelor's degree. And if they explain you that, like, hey, this is what, when I went to software, when I was doing my daily job, I really was fascinated that a computer can do something. If they're honest about their story, is that like too candid for visa officers? Like, oh, I don't think, or is that like that's what visa officers want?
Yeah, that's what we want, right? The candid response, the honest answer. So absolutely.
So basically, be a human and not a robot. Like, don't go with a script.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. There's no need to prepare sort of a rehearsed speech or anything like that, right? Just have that natural conversation. Explain your story to the officer.
Right. What are your plans after master's? Because kind of, I feel like, when this question gets asked a lot, and student gets very nervous when they ask this question, because immediately they think that they want to know the ties to country, and they want to answer that I want to come back to my country and get a job or start my own thing or something like that. How does that question, like, how should they approach that question? Like, when they are asked, like, should they say that, oh, I will definitely want to approach for OPT program and kind of do a job so that I can gain some experience? Should they be honest about it, or should they just say, like, no, I'm going to come back because that looks more like, so what's your take on that?
Yeah, so they should definitely be honest, right? So if they're interested in pursuing OPT, optional practical training, talk about that and talk about how maybe you want to then segue into some other position from there. So just tell the truth, right? A U.S. education can take you in many different directions, right? It's a valuable thing.
Yeah.
And we do understand that plans, you can't sort of predetermine your future, right? So things might change, but just talk a little bit about where you see yourself going.
Right. So, for example, if someone is pursuing masters in data science and they really want to get into want to become a data scientist or a data miner or something like that, if they do tell a visa officer that my aspiration is to become a data scientist because I love seeing the data and understanding what data can do, is that kind of considered as a potential immigrant because he's saying that he's interested in career, he's going to work there, he's going to stay there, and is never going to come back?
No. So that's, we understand like a student might pursue OPT, and perhaps that employer might decide to submit a petition for perhaps an H-1B visa, right? So there are many different things that can happen.
Right.
So I think just be honest. Talk about sort of the different paths that you could pursue.
Yeah.
If this happens, you might do that. If something else happens, you might go in a different direction. You have lots of different options.
Yeah.
So just talk about some choices that you would like to have in the future.
Yeah. I wanted to know from your angle, what are some of the common mistakes which you might have seen in students when they came for an interview? If you can talk about those so that my audience can avoid those mistakes when they are coming for it.
Yeah. And I guess it's not so much a mistake, but don't let your nerves get the better of you, right? Just remain calm. Don't think of this as some scary experience, right? You're just having like we said, a conversation.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one thing. Don't feel that you have to prepare a script. We talked a little bit about that too. Don't feel that it's sort of a presentation.
Right.
Think of it again as more of a conversation. You're answering the questions in a concise way, an honest way.
Right.
So I think those are sort of the biggest things the most common things that we see.
Yeah. So one of the other myth which I know is a student who already has a master's program in United States. A master's program in India, and they are now wanting to pursue another master's in United States. Is that looked upon that he already has a master's? Why does he want to do another master's? And they're going to reject the visa based on that.
No, not necessarily, right? As long as the applicant can kind of connect their past, their present, and their future. So, why is it that they have a master's already, but they decided to go for another master's, right? There's probably a reason there.
Right.
So as long as they can tell us about that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's another kind of a master's situation where in India, you can get a bachelor's degree within 15 years of education, and United States a lot of schools require 16 years of education. So what a lot of students do is they do either postgraduate diploma program to complete that 16 years, or they'll do like a another master's for 2 years. So it satisfies that 16 years of mark.
Right.
Should they say that that's why they did it, or should they say I did it because I wanted to pursue masters and then I want to pursue another master's? Like, how should they approach that?
Yeah, so I mean, if that was their motivation for doing the master's in India, like getting the 16-year mark, absolutely.
And
tell
so
us.
be honest.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right?
Right.
They needed to get to 16 years, so they pursued a master's program in India.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I know we touched on a lot of things for this video. Is there anything which you would want to tell students who are coming, or is there any tips you would want to give? Is there anything we missed and you think that this might be really important for students to know?
Yeah, I think we did a really good job covering things. But, and I think I've said it a little bit before, but relax for your interview, right? I know it's kind of easy for me to say, right? But but take a deep breath. As I mentioned before, reflect on your whole process that you went through to get to this point, and then come to the interview and be honest and
yeah. All right. Until our next episode.
Keep smiling and keep hustling.
Awesome. Thank you.